Joe Biden told an audience that illegal aliens become Americans before many Americans become Americans. A church in Alabama said that if you're a black and vote for Trump, you have a mental illness. And guess what they said about white people who vote for Trump? MSNBC's Chris Hayes says that the Electoral College would be unconstitutional if it weren't in the Constitution. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, happy Monday. If this is a holiday for you, I hope you're enjoying it. We're going to jump right into the news with Joe Biden. As you know, it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. He says some weird stuff, and that is the primary thing that brings him down into the polls and makes him on par now with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and he did it again. This time, he was talking to an audience, and he said that illegal immigrant kids become Americans before many Americans do. I don't even understand what it means, but here's a report from Fox News. It says, 2020 presidential hopeful Joe Biden had another head-scratching moment out on the campaign trail Thursday when he claimed illegal immigrant children become Americans before actual United States citizens do. Biden was asked how he would oversee immigration detention facilities as president during an event in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and he took the opportunity to praise undocumented youths. We have to find a pathway for dreamers, he said. These kids who come and they end up doing well, they become Americans before a lot of Americans become Americans, he told the crowd. So, think about that one today when you're, grilling or hanging out or whatever, but that's not all. He also has this war story that was getting a lot of attention. He said it late last week, and now it's getting fact-checked all up and down because the story just doesn't quite fit with reality. Here's Joe Biden.
Young Navy captain, Navy, up in the mountains in the Konar Valley in Afghanistan. One of his buddies got shot, fell down a ravine about 60 feet. This guy climbed down a ravine, carried this guy up on his back under fire. And the general wanted me to pin the silver star on him.
So then he goes on to talk about the reaction when he stood in front of this serviceman.
I got up there and I said, God's truth, my word is a Biden. He stood at attention. I went to pin him. I said, sir, I don't want the damn thing. Do not pin it on me, sir. Please, sir, do not do that. He died. He died.
So he was definitely emotional. It was definitely powerful. The thing is that it wasn't correct. And the Washington Post, who does their fact checks and loves to zing on conservatives and Republicans, they couldn't help but, notice what Biden said. And they were on CNN, and this Washington Post reporter talked a little bit about some of the things that were wrong with Biden's statement. Check this out.
He went as a senator, not as a vice president, as he stated the other night. There was not a Navy captain involved, as he said the other night. It's an Army sergeant in Workman's case. He's not pinning a medal on anybody in Kunar province. He's pinning a medal on somebody later in Wardak province.
So in that description, he got his office wrong. He got the service member's rank wrong. He got the branch of service wrong. He got the province wrong that he was at. So surely that's it, right? Surely that's the topper. He got everything else right?
And then the other element is that he's describing this ravine and somebody falling down a ravine and going to retrieve a fallen colleague. That is an incident that did occur in Wardak province, and the military member involved with that, Kyle White, got the Medal of Honor, which was given by Barack Obama at the White House.
So the guy who went down the ravine, the guy that Biden talks about, was given a medal by Barack Obama in the White House. So, how do you mix that up? So that's Biden right there. But we're gonna move on to Bernie Sanders because he is playing loose with the facts as well, and he got a 3 Pinocchio rating from the Washington Post fact checker. And what he's talking about is, he's pushing Medicare for all and all these kinds of things, and he's making this claim that every year 500,000 people go bankrupt because of medical bills. That's his claim, and he even tweeted it recently. He said, 500,000 Americans will go bankrupt this year from medical bills. They didn't go to Las Vegas and blow their money at a casino. Their crime was that they got sick. How barbaric is a system that says, I'm going to destroy your family's finances because you had cancer? So Sanders also said that same claim to Jake Tapper over at CNN, and the Washington Examiner has a report that dives into exactly what is wrong with Sanders' statements and how he is playing loose with the facts. Here's the report. It says, the Post fact checker had issued Sanders 3 Pinocchios for the claim, saying the Democratic presidential candidate had engaged in a classic case of cherry-picking a number from a scientific study and twisting it to make a political point. The fact checker added that the study Sanders was citing doesn't establish causation for the 500,000 cases, and that it included anyone who mentioned medical bills or illness among their reasons for declaring bankruptcy, not just those who said it was their main reason or a big piece. He's saying medical debts caused those 500,000 bankruptcies, the outlet noted. However, correlation is not causation. So again, what they're saying there is that anytime anyone mentioned, in their long list of stuff, they lost their job and things like that led them to bankruptcy, anywhere, any mention of medical bills, they use that in their finding to say that 500,000 people every year go bankrupt because of medical bills. And at least the Washington Post called them out on that because, again, that is twisting the facts and it is 100% not accurate. So you've got Biden making up stuff. You've got Bernie Sanders making up stuff. And it's just, this is why we have to be diligent and we have to pay attention to the news and we have to pay attention to what these candidates or what anybody is saying and make sure the facts are right. And hopefully you guys are doing that. Hopefully I can help just a little bit. And another story that just really got my attention is because we're in this, political mindset now. The elections are rearing up and the left is going after Trump like crazy and just relentless. Well, here is a story from a church. This is a church in Alabama, a Baptist church in Alabama, and they have a sign, overt political sign, anti-Trump sign, and you won't believe what it says. Check out this report from the local station.
A Birmingham pastor is standing by his controversial anti-Trump church sign. The sign outside the New Era Baptist Church in Birmingham reads, "A black vote for Trump is mental illness." On the other side, it says, "A white vote for Trump is pure racism."
So let's repeat that for a second, all right? Outside this church, it says, so a black vote for Trump is mental illness. And then on the flip side, a white vote for Trump is pure racism. And this is at a church. This is at a Baptist church in Birmingham, Alabama. And the thing is, you can't do that. You can't, as a nonprofit church, be involved in that kind of activity. Here's a passage. I went to the IRS and looked this up. And here's a passage that governs churches and other entities such as this. It says, currently, the law prohibits political campaign activity by charities and churches by defining a 501c3 organization as one which does not participate in or intervene in, including the publishing or distributing of statements, any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office. So what do you think about that? I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. This guy is so, and this church is so anti-Trump. They're attacking black, white. It doesn't matter. But it is 100% not allowed. And you just wonder why these people get so stirred up by President Trump. I mean, the left goes crazy. Now this pastor, this church, I mean, he does something that just really gets them fired up. So next, and I promised myself, we ended Friday's show. We had that joke in there. And I promised that I wouldn't do a joke for today. All right. But then we have MSNBC's Chris Hayes. So right there is a joke in and of itself. And I just have to tell you about a segment he did leading into the weekend that it's just absolutely nuts. The left has been going after the Electoral College. We had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming out saying that it's a scam, that it's racist. And basically all they're doing is they're just upset because Trump won. and they want to find a way to get the left into power. And they know population centers, major cities controlled and basically ruined by the Democrats, could swing elections if it were a popular vote. So Chris Hayes on his program dedicated a segment to the Electoral College, and here's what he had to say.
Deeper philosophical thing happening, which is the question of what exactly American democracy is for. And the weirdest thing about the Electoral College is the fact that if it wasn't specifically in the Constitution for the presidency, it would be unconstitutional.
So, yep, that's right. He said the Electoral College would be unconstitutional if it weren't in the Constitution. So you need to let that one settle in a little bit. And then in his program, he went on to talk about how jurisprudence changed through the 1960s, and they were looking at cases where people were restricted or groups were restricted from voting in certain cities, towns, states. You know, this is where the Supreme Court could go in, looking at how districts were set up within the states. And he lists some example, and they're always, just like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're all focused on race. That's all that matters to them. It doesn't matter this idea of minorities getting overwhelmed as far as population, having some representation for a small state versus a big state. That kind of disparity doesn't matter to them because it doesn't affect their power. What they look at is these cities, they have large minority populations that vote overwhelmingly Democrat. They want those to control the country. So Chris Hayes, and what's so funny is that in his explanations and everything, it just is so nonsensical. But what I always wondered is, okay, they go after the presidency, they go after the Electoral College, but in the founding of the country, as another compromise, they also have the Senate. You know, the House is based on population, the Senate is based on equal representation, and they never have gone after that. And I always wondered, you know, why haven't they touched that one yet? Well, guess what?
United States Senate, right? And this might be for another show, but you may have noticed the same number of senators represent the 40 million people of California and the 500,000 people of Wyoming. Not really one person, one vote E.
So yes, there you have it. The Senate is bad too. And I had a feeling that was coming because again, it's equal representation. It allows the states to still be weighted. The bigger states, Texas, California, they're always going to have more influence. But what the founders said was not undue influence. It's a union of states. They are going to decide elections, and they're going to decide it based on a compromise between equal representation and population. That's why you have House and Senate, and that breakdown actually leads to the weighting for the Electoral College. The left hates it, and now, but these things with Chris Hayes is just absolutely just insane for him to say that it wouldn't be constitutional unless it's in the Constitution. Well, guess what? The federal income tax would be unconstitutional if it weren't in the Constitution. And yet they have no problem with the federal income tax. In fact, they love that and they want to raise the rates even more. So anyway, Chris Hayes, that's our joke for the day. But folks, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.